So in today's video, we are going to go beyond the usual exploratory data analysis checklist and talk about the one thing that actually makes your analysis show that you're an experienced analyst, which is connecting your data to real-world insights. Welcome back to our Portfolio Playbook series. This is episode 5 of our step-by-step roadmap for creating a job-ready portfolio project. We're going to be answering questions like, how do I know when I've actually analyzed enough? What do I do after I've done the initial layer of exploration? And how do I communicate insights like a data analyst does on the real job? If you're new here, I'm Christine. I'm a former data director and a hiring manager who now helps people take the most direct path to working a job in data by learning how to think, speak, and operate like a standout analyst. So if that sounds helpful to you, make sure to subscribe and let's dive in. By the way, if you have been feeling overwhelmed or scattered with all the resources out there and you wish that there was just a clear end-to-end roadmap for how to land a job in data, then I have built exactly that. I'm launching a self-paced version of my live cohort that is designed for people who already have some fundamental technical skills and want to take these technical skills to the next level so that they can go from capable to confident as an experienced analyst. It is not a beginner bootcamp. This is a 10-week roadmap that is going to teach you how to build a standout resume, standout portfolio projects, and how to build a unique narrative and strategy that will help you stand out in the job hunt process. So you're going to get access to live feedback and mentorship sessions with me, access to our private Slack community, as well as access to our custom AI-trained companion, which is built on all of our program principles for what hiring managers care about and what has worked for our top students. And so we're limiting this first founding circle to just 30 people. This is your official invite. I would love to see you there. Now remember, in the last video, we introduced a SCAN framework, which is the framework for how to start out the initial layer of exploratory data analysis. It stands for stakeholder goals, columns and coverage, aggregates and anomalies, and notable segments. And last time, we left off at the end part, which is the notable segments, which is where we start to actually go into deep dive analysis. And this is probably the number one thing that I think early analysts struggle with and miss in their portfolio project. They just don't bring in domain context. They don't ask things like, what does this metric mean for this team? And also, what would be the most compelling or insightful way to actually explain this finding based on their goals? So in the last video, we started exploring the question, what are our key trends in sales? And what are some insights geared towards a finance, marketing, and product team? Now, of course, this isn't a question that you can just answer in one chart. But at the same time, we do not want to rabbit hole into analysis paralysis either. So the number one thing that you can do to prevent analysis paralysis right from the get-go is to get very clear on your North Stars. So your North Star metrics, your North Star dimensions, and your North Star team goals. For North Star metrics, that's understanding what is the key value that we're looking at. For us, we're looking at key trends in sales. So we're going to be focusing on the USD price column from our data set. But this could be the total revenue dollars. We could be looking at the count of the orders, or we could also be looking at a metric like AOV, which is average order value. Because we don't have a lot of clarity from our stakeholder here, because it's a portfolio project, for now, we're just going to focus on the USD price or the total revenue. North Star dimensions are what are the qualitative variables that you want to slice and dice and explore your data by. So that's things like region, marketing channel, and product and time. Remember that stakeholders do not just want numbers, they want movement. And insight comes from seeing how dimensions change over time, not just how big they are. So time is almost always going to be a key dimension if it's available in your data set. And then for the team goals, the marketing team wants to know how we can attract more customers or get them to buy more. The finance team wants to know where the revenue or loss is coming from. So are there certain regions or marketing channels or products that are driving this? And the product team wants to know what features or product lines are popular or not so popular. So we're going to use these North Stars to determine how we slice the data, what insights we actually need to pay attention to, and then how we actually frame our recommendations to those teams. We're going to be focusing more on the notable segments part in this video, where we're actually moving away from what happened to why that happened. What segments or what areas are the main drivers of what we're finding in initial analysis? And remember, the whole point of exploratory analysis is to start to find some insights and surface initial recommendations that would be useful to a team. So in this case, the main question we're exploring, which is what are the overall trends in sales and what are some insights and recommendations geared towards a finance, marketing, and sales team, is what we're going to be focusing on. I'm so I'm going to start slicing and dicing my data by a number of different dimensions. If I were to try to do this exploratory analysis in Excel, then I would find that in order to slice and dice by a number of different dimensions, I would have to restructure my pivot tables, I would have to recreate graphs, and it wouldn't really be the best tool for this kind of exploratory visualization. Instead, I'm actually going to move the data over to Tableau, which is much better for moving between different kinds of dimensions and just changing the structure of a graph on the go. And so this is one of the most important things when it comes to exploratory analysis, which is understanding the pros and cons and the limits and benefits of different tools so that you can move between these tools depending on what stage of analysis you're in. So instead of continuing to do my exploratory visualization in Excel, I'm actually going to move my data over to Tableau and continue there. Now, with that main question of what are the overall trends in sales, one of the biggest things that someone would expect to see is just a line graph of sales over time. So I'm going to take my purchase timestamp and look at USD price. So let's see, where is the USD price? And look at that over time on a monthly basis. The reason why I'm usually going to do monthly is because just looking at a year, so 4 data points, isn't really going to be that insightful. So when I look at USD price over time, I'm starting to see that there are peaks at certain times of the year. So September 2020, December 2020, and the same peaks in the next year. So September 2021 and December 2021. And I'm also seeing that there was a huge spike, what seems to be the early COVID months. So February 2020, and then there was a dip in 2021, and then again, a dip in 2022. So in looking at this line graph, I'm starting to see this big spike in 2020, and then a big dip in 2021, and a big dip again in 2022. The main cause for concern is if these dips continue, then our revenue would be at an all-time low after the COVID years. Now I'm going to split this column out by those 3 dimensions, and I'm going to try to identify whether or not there's a specific product, a specific marketing channel, or a specific region that is the main driver of these dips. Obviously, the answer probably isn't going to be that easy. It's probably going to be spread out across a number of different dimensions. So if I just duplicate this tab and I'm going to split it out by product name. So let's see, product name, and then I'm going to duplicate this again, and I'm going to show this split by region. So let's see where the region is. And I'm also going to split it out by the marketing channel. So marketing channel. What I'm doing here is just an initial check to see if there are any categories that are the main drivers of those big dips. So when I look at marketing channels, I'm seeing that most of the revenue actually came from direct. That's people who come directly to the website and make a purchase there without first clicking on an email link or coming through social media. So direct, because it's the main driver of revenue, it also seems to be the main driver of those big dips in early 2021 and early 2022. So that's something to come back to and look into more. When I look at by regions, interestingly, I'm seeing that this is probably a global trend because every single region exhibits a similar dip in 2021 and 2022. It's probably the most steep in North America. So that's something that we're starting to understand. North America and direct channels are the main drivers of those dips at the end of 2021 to early 2022. So when I look at it by product, I'm seeing that there are 3 or 4 products that make up the majority of revenue, and about 3 of them had very significant dips in early 2021 and early 2022. So the blue, the gaming monitor, the purple, the Nintendo Switch, and then the yellow, the Xbox series, right? So the story that I'm piecing together here is products overall that were the main drivers of the dips in sales are those 3 products. We'd want to look into why the Xbox series seems to have an even more significant dip than the other 2 categories. And of all the other products, so the pink line, the orange line, the green line, they're so low in revenue that I would almost actually ignore them for the rest of this analysis in understanding the drivers of sales. And you'll see how when we exclude these other products as we continue on an analysis, it actually allows us to narrow in and focus on what's more important. So that's also one thing that prevents us from falling into analysis paralysis by very quickly starting to see what categories or what segments are the most notable and focusing on those segments as we move forward. Now, when it comes to looking at total sales that are driven by products, there's actually 2 different ways of understanding why these sales went up or down. Now, when I'm looking at total sales by product, remember that sales is actually made up of 2 other metrics, which is the order count and the average order value, right? Because total sales is equal to the quantity times the price. So total quantity times the total average price. And so I want to get a sense for is the revenue or is the USD price, is it fluctuating because people are buying less, or is it because people are buying the same amount, but the price actually went down? So you can see that this is where a little bit of domain knowledge about a metric is going to help you a lot in getting an understanding of why a metric actually fluctuated. I have my total sales by product, but I want to look at the order count by product as well as the average price by product. So I'm going to switch this out and look at order count. And then I am also going to look at the average order value. So I'm taking USD price and I'm going to take the average of it instead of the total. So let's change this to average. Now, when I'm looking at AOV by product, what's the story here? Remember, I'm focusing on the blue, yellow, and the purple lines because those are the products that are the main drivers of the revenue dip. So I'm just focusing on those. So blue, purple, and yellow. Now, blue and purple, so the gaming monitor and the Nintendo Switch, are quite stable in their AOV. The Xbox series has a little bit of a different story. So it has more fluctuating prices, and at the end of 2021 especially, the average price of the product went down, and since then it's been declining a lot. All the way from $1,600 in June 2022 down to $1,200 just a few months later. So just from this graph, we don't know why the AOV went down. It could have been because we were running discounts during the holiday season. It could have been because there was a more popular product out on the market, and so we actually lowered the price. Or it could have been because we sell this product in a number of different countries and regions. There was actually a difference in conversion rates because maybe the product is popular in certain countries where the USD price to that foreign currency's conversion rate actually changed, and it actually changed the price of the product as a result. So let's actually look at the order count to see the other side of the story. When I'm looking at order count, and remember I'm still focusing on blue, purple, and yellow, because those are the products that are the main drivers of revenue. And I'm seeing that for blue and purple, so for the game monitor and for the Switch, there are dips at the beginning of 2021 and the beginning of 2022 as well. Actually, all products generally have this dip. In the yellow product, so in the Xbox, which actually has the highest AOV, remember it's the most expensive product, there seems to be a pretty strong dip towards the end of 2020 into 2021 as well. And because the yellow line or the Xbox is the most expensive product, any fluctuation in that order count is going to have an outsized impact on the total revenue. So you can see how when I break USD price into those two different subcomponents, so the order count and the average order value, I'm starting to piece together a more unique story about why the total sales went down. I can see that order count for the most popular products went down, so people were buying less frequently. And for Xbox specifically, the average order value or the average price of that product was going down as well. And because the average price for that product is the highest of those top three products, then any kind of decrease in order counts for the Xbox is going to have an outsized impact on revenue. I'm going to take a quick sec to just rename my sheets so that I can stay organized, and then we're going to keep going with the analysis. The next reasonable question that a stakeholder would ask or that I would pose in a portfolio project is, well, what was happening in those three products? And so I'm going to take these three products and I want to start looking at within these three products, were there specific regions or specific marketing channels that were actually most responsible for the dip? And again, remember when we did that sanity check on the marketing channel in the region, we didn't see anything too notable by region, but in the marketing channel, we saw that there was an outsized impact of direct channels. So let's see what that looks like split by product. So I am actually going to create the same line graph from before, looking at product USD, but then I'm going to split it out by the different marketing channels. So I'm actually going to move product name to the rows, and then I'm going to split out the series by marketing channels so that I can see within each product what was the split of the marketing channel. Now, there's a few things when it comes to cleaning up your visualizations just to make life easier for yourself. Again, remember we identified that there were three products we want to focus on. So I'm actually going to exclude the products that are not part of that list because they're such a low part of revenue that I don't really have to pay attention to them. I just want to focus on what's most important. So I'm getting rid of those. I'm just going to hide those for now. And then I'm also going to sort in descending order by USD price or total revenue for that product so that I know, okay, the product at the top is the one that has the most revenue. The product at the bottom is the one that has least revenue within those three categories within those 3 products. So whenever I have this split by different categories for one metric, I am also going to say that I want independent access ranges for each row or column. So it doesn't look like one is super, super low and one is really, really big. In this case, because our product ranges, the USD sales has a similar range, it didn't change that significantly. And I'm also going to sort this overall visualization by the product that has the most USD sales at the top and the product that has the least USD sales at the bottom. So I can do that by doing sort here, and then I am going to pick by a specific field, and I want to pick descending order in the USD price. So now I know, okay, the gaming monitor and the Switch are the highest, the Xbox Series is the lowest, but again, the range is pretty similar for all 3 products. Okay, so now let's just take a second and stare at this visualization and start to understand what's happening. For the gaming monitor and the Nintendo Switch, they actually have similar trends across time for all of the marketing channels, right? You can see that interesting, the gaming monitor started picking up in email while every other product was kind of low on email sales. Not really sure why that is. This would be just something to raise. And since then, all of them have that decline in the direct traffic. But the Xbox Series, again, has something that's a little bit more interesting going on, where the dip is much more significant relative to its usual sales in direct channel. So this dip right here from December 2020 to April 2021 is a bit more outsized than the other channels for the other products. And then direct also continued to go down all the way towards the end of 2022. Now, again, we don't have the complete data set. We don't see 2023 and 2024. So right now we're just surfacing and focusing on insights from the past that we can surface now. Now, because direct is basically a channel that requires someone to come directly to the website, it's something that is a little bit out of the marketing team's control. But there's a few things that we can still surface as helpful insights and potential recommendations. One of them is to just investigate. Were there other competitors that entered the scene in early 2021 that would have decreased the Xbox Series popularity at that time? Did we also change the location of the product series on the website, which would cause people to come directly to the website but buy a different product instead of the Xbox? And also, were there promotions that we were running that people were usually going directly to the website to use that then affected the Xbox Series purchase rate? Maybe we ran less discounts than usual, or we were prioritizing and promoting other products at that time. Now, I'm also going to do the same thing and look at the product split by region. And the story that this visualization tells us is within the 3 categories of products that were the most popular during the COVID years, how did the regional fluctuations look? And again, we're trying to find, is there one region that is most responsible across these 3 products for the dips that we saw? So the gaming monitor and the Switch, again, they have similar trends to each other, right? These kinds of global ups and downs that happen across all 4 regions. It's a little bit different for the Xbox, where we're seeing that North America, again, took a really big hit compared to other regions and other products. So one of the main insights that we're coming to is that direct North American sales for the Xbox Series seems to be one of the biggest causes of the dip in sales at the end of 2021. If I take a look at the direct sales, I went from 304,000 to 118,000, right? So more than a 50% dip in sales in this one product alone that is responsible for about $200,000 in sales. And if I'm looking at the overall USD price and I go back to this first line graph, I'm seeing that same time span, there was a dip from 1,200 USD to 700 USD, right? So that's about a $500,000 dip. So just as a back of envelope calculation, $200,000 of that $500,000 dip is coming from one product and one marketing channel. Now, after I find a deep dive insight like this is a good stopping point for me to go back to my Excel workbook and actually start jotting down what my deep dive insights were so that I can remember to surface them and start bringing recommendations to the big picture. So I'm gonna walk you guys through the way that I would have documented these deep dive insights and how I would translate these to recommendations to a team. So the way that I organize myself in the Excel workbook is under my initial EDA findings, which we talked about in the last video, I have my deep dive analysis findings where I'm actually really trying to drill into why something happened. And I noted down the Tableau tab. So when I rename the tabs, what tab is the actual visualization on so that I can stay organized, what that deep dive insight is, and my initial thought for what that recommendation should be from that finding. So for example, on the overall USD tab, what we found was that sales more than doubled in early 2020 with all-time highs in September and December 2020. but they dropped significantly in 2021 and again in 2022, nearing pre-COVID levels. So the recommendation from here actually was just to do some sanity checks on some key dimensions to investigate if there's one clear driver. And that was more a recommendation to myself, not really to an outward team. So when we started to do that, what we found was that the gaming monitor, the Nintendo Switch, and Xbox are the main drivers of the dip. All three exhibit the same plateauing behavior in 2021 and 2022. So we're going to look at these products by region and marketing channel. When we do that, we see that direct is the main driver of sales, while all other channels pale in comparison. Now, to the marketing team, it seems like there might be some untapped potential in the marketing channels of email and social media that were very low compared to our direct sales. So investigate with the marketing team on email and social media strategies. Ideally, with a marketing focused analysis, we would actually have more marketing dimensions like the campaign category and metrics like impressions and click-through rate. But because we really only have one or two marketing related dimensions here, our insights and our findings are going to be a little bit high level, but I will show you guys some recommendations that we get from ChatGPT that can take this to the next level. So for regions, all regions exhibit similar dips in 2021 and 2022, indicating a global or macro trend. So not one region is the culprit here. And when we look at products split by marketing, while all three top products exhibited dips in early 2021 and 2022, Xbox had a major dip in direct traffic at the beginning of 2021, or direct sales, I should say, compared to other products and marketing channels. And since then, there's been a consistent decline in that product's direct channel sales, especially in North America. And when we looked at it by region, we saw that for Xbox, the drop is mostly contained to the North America region and direct traffic, which may indicate a shift in trends or competitors here. So these first deep dive insights are what I'm going to actually translate to some recommendations. And if you don't have a lot of corporate experience, or you're still trying to make the jump to imagine what does a team actually do with these kinds of insights, this is where I see that ChatGPT can help hone these skills and this thinking a lot. So if I go to ChatGPT and I just feed in these initial insights and I say, come up with 1 to 2 key recommendations for a sales, finance, and marketing team, this is what it gives you. So for the finance team, revise your revenue forecast to reflect post-COVID normalizations, especially for top products. And also assess the profitability in North America, given the decline in the direct channel sales. Start to consider whether or not we should invest in other areas, or whether we should even keep this on our product inventory list. For the sales team, so shifting sales to focus on more stable regions for Xbox outside of North America. So leveraging Q4 spikes by planning seasonal promotions and bundling strategies around historically strong months. And then for the marketing team to investigate and optimize the Xbox direct channel in North America, examining the potential causes like website UX issues, competitor moves, or shifts in messaging that started in 2021, and launching re-engagement campaigns for the top products, using targeted email and paid media to revive demand across underperforming segments. And I'll tell you guys right now that if you're able to arrive at these kinds of recommendations and the kind of insights that we're showing in our insights log, that is enough. That is what you actually want to start bringing into your portfolio project write-up, along with some visualizations, which we're going to talk much more about in the next few videos in this playbook series, that shows your ability to actually synthesize information and make it useful to a real team. In this exercise, all we did was make a few simple line graphs to get to all of these insights. So you can see why focusing on clarity and simplicity still allows you to come up with something useful compared to something that might be overly complex and requires you to go down a deep rabbit hole of analysis. And in the future video, we'll also talk about how to tie everything together so that it looks cohesive and stakeholder ready. Now, I do want to mention just 2 quick caveats. Normally on the job, this entire exploratory analysis process would be a collaborative and iterative conversation with real stakeholders, where the stakeholders would also be giving you more context on what you should be looking for and what they're expecting of the final deliverable. So in the absence of that, in your portfolio projects, you have to be a little bit more creative and think a bit more strategically. You can use this Portfolio Playbook series to guide you, and you can also use ChatGPT. And also, we're looking at trends from COVID because we want to explore how a macro event could actually affect an e-commerce company. But normally on the job, you'd be looking at data that's a little bit more recent. But again, the main learning here is the overall framework and the structure that you can then apply to any data set that you choose. So in the next video, we're going to be focusing on how to bridge the gap between insights and visualizations. And if you want to take your portfolio projects to the next level and get feedback from me, be a part of a community community of other ambitious aspiring data analysts and learn how to apply your technical skills to the real-world job, then check out my self-paced program below. I am so excited to meet our founding circle, and I will see you guys in the next video.